Charlie Kirk has been a major influence on the young people of this country, but his influence didn't stop on college campuses. Charlie Kirk's influence extended to the heights of power in the United States of America. A personal friend, I know, to the Secretary of War, to the Secretary of State, to the Vice President of the United States, to the President of the United States. Charlie Kirk's influence literally knew no bounds, and he changed America for the better. For those that hate and those that disagree and that can find no other way to respond but with violence. You did nothing today but to point out the important influence and the great man that was Charlie Kirk.
Now let's go to Frank Turk. Frank Turk is the object of a current conspiracy theory because of this movement right here. Let me show you. He scratches his nose. I'm going to try not to show. I'm going to go frame by frame because I don't want to show the actual shot. Okay. But Frank Turk is this guy right here on the right. Let me expand this right here. This right here on the right is Frank Turk. The guy in the white hat is this same guy. This is Frank Turk. And he's actually going to recount what he saw and what he went through that day. And he's going to tell us that on his cell phone, he was FaceTiming his son. He was in the middle of FaceTiming the son. And when he heard the shot, you're going to hear what Frank Turk says about where he thought the shot came from, and then later learned that it was way farther away than he thought it was. But watch this. I'm going to just go frame by frame. And I will point out a couple things I wasn't planning on pointing out that are kind of anomalies. But look, this is what Frank Turk is getting criticism over for doing these seeming baseball plays. Actually, I'm going to expand this because you got to see the... Let me get Frank Turk out of the way since you know who he is already. Okay, so Frank Turk grabs the bill of his hat. He got criticized for that. He scratched his nose. Here's Charlie Kirk asking the last question. Here's the other guy. This guy is a longtime security guard for Charlie Kirk. Frank Turk vouches for this guy's credibility and says there's no way this guy was in on it. As the conspiracy theory goes, these two were giving calls to the sniper on when to pull the trigger. And my question would be, which is the same thing that Frank Turk said, why would a sniper who's looking through a scope need an okay from anybody? He's the guy in control. He knows what he's aiming at, and he doesn't need anybody to tell him, hey, now's a good time to shoot. I don't know why he would. So watch this. Charlie Kirk asked this last question of his life. I think his last two words were gang violence. Okay, now watch this. Now, people say, I'm going to blow this up. I don't know what to believe about this, and I don't even know how it's possible to catch a bullet in the air with the frame rate of a cell phone. But they're saying that this dot right here, let me expand this. Let me expand it a little bit more. They're saying that this dot right here is the bullet coming from this direction over here to Frank Turk's right, Charlie Kirk's right rear. Let me back it up one frame. Okay, so no bullet, bullet disappears, boom. When the bullet disappears, 2 frames later, the shirt goes up. The name of the channel is Outside the Overton. I'm guessing it's the Overton window, which is the acceptable range of political discourse typically. He's saying that this right here is the bullet. And he points out something that I did not notice, and that is that Charlie Kirk had a right-fitted earpiece, possibly with the cord going down the front of him, which Outside the Overton actually says that this is the lanyard that is carrying the cord of the earpiece down the front of his shirt, which I'm not sure if that's true, but there is something that Frank Turk says that was around Charlie Kirk's neck that was a little bit more weighty, and we'll go over that in a second. Let me also show you something else. Let me take this off the screen, and I want to advance it here. Let me take Charlie off the screen. But I want to advance it because I don't want to show this and because here's the deal with demonetization. If they age restrict this video and demonetize it, it basically kills the video. And I want this message to get out. So I'm not trying to kill this video. Let me show you. There is a suspicious streak that people are saying is either bullet fragments or pieces of Charlie Kirk's chain that he had around his neck flying through the air. I'm going to show it to you because you can see it off of this guy's black shirt. I'm going to go frame by frame. See this? See that? There's 2 streaks. Can you see those? Let me expand this. This is very interesting. All right. So if you back it up once, you go one frame, see the beginning of that streak, not there, not there, there. And then you advance one more frame and then it becomes darker. And then you advance one more frame and there's two streaks and now they're gone. So it's two streaks. So it's one brighter, two gone. What is that? What is that? And that's when he gets, hit in the neck. So anyway, this is Frank Turk. I want you to listen to what he says. Let me get this back in a frame here. This is super interesting, man. Because you know what I think is really interesting about this and is actually unique in the conspiracy realm is that they're claiming that this guy right here is in on the conspiracy where he's the guy who gives the shooter the okay to shoot. And here he is saying, okay, I am the brunt of a conspiracy. Let me dispel that. I'm his friend. Basically, he's a mentor. He and Charlie Kirk were basically tight. This is where he says, politics is something we do because Christ saved us.
Some of you already know that TPUSA is over $100 million a year in donations because Charlie and his team are just so effective at what they do.
Think about that. $100 million a year in donations.
And donors would come up to him and say, hey, Charlie, we love all this conservative stuff, but keep the Jesus stuff out of it. You know what Charlie told him? Give your money to somebody else. Because without Jesus, we're nothing.
If all that were true, it is commendable. If Christianity is true, and if Charlie was principled on what he believed as far as faith, and if he actually denied significant funding, because in giving that funding, if he'd have to change his message, he would have to veer off principle under the sun. That is just a good thing to do. That's a good posture to take. It's showing that you have an objective other than to accumulate and make money and amass riches in this life. If it were true.
This is all about Jesus. Politics is an implication of Christianity.
Here we go. Here we go. It's starting. We're going to listen to this again. I'm going to listen to it all the way through, and then we're going to listen to it again and make some significant comments because this is intertwined inextricably with what the psychological operation is all about. And nobody, show me one person beside maybe James Corbett, the last American vagabond, maybe Larkin Rose that are talking about this show, maybe a handful, maybe Whitney Webb. Show me anybody who's talking about the significance of this aspect of the psychological operation, because Frank unwittingly or wittingly encapsulates it. Check this out.
This is all about Jesus. Politics is an implication of Christianity. It's an implication. It's something we do because Christ saved us. It's something we do because we love our neighbors, but we want to get people saved and sanctified and then be salt and light.
Wow. When I heard this, my jaw dropped. Listen to this first part again.
This is all about Jesus. Politics is an implication of Christianity.
Politics is the implication of Christianity. Politics is something we do because Christ saved us. The catalyst is Christ saving us. The result is involving ourselves in politics. This is what Frank Turk is saying. And this is what the psychological operation is all about. This is so important because politics is violence. It is corruption. It is lies. It is murder. It is fostering and supporting the world's largest death cult. And he's saying politics is something we do. Violence is something that we do. Corruption is something we involve ourselves in. Murder, wide scale, authoritarian murder, and extortion is something we do because Christ saved us. There's nothing. Put a 1 in the room if you think there's something virtuous in politics. Put a 2 if you think there's nothing virtuous in politics. It's the desire for your party to grab the reins of power. They want to violently grab the reins of power and violently control the other side. The Democrats want it. The Republicans want it. But this guy who is the mentor of the guy who's the head of one of the most powerful pro-Zionist, no matter what Charlie said at the end, they're still pro-Zionist. They have not veered from Zionism, pro-Zionist, pro-Republican, pro-political platform in the name of Christ. Politics is something we do because Christ saved us. Just listen to this last part again and just really let it sink in.
This is all about Jesus. Politics is an implication of Christianity. It's an implication. It's something we do because Christ saved us.
Damn.
It's something we do because we love our neighbors.
We do murder. We applaud murder and bomb dropping because we love our neighbors. Think about how demented, convoluted, and somewhat deceptive that is. This is deep, man. The social engineers are not dummies. People like Edward Bernays, they wanted to control the minds of the unthinking masses. I'll go over a quote by Bernays here in a second, but listen to the rest of this.
But we want to get people saved and sanctified and then be salt and light.
And then be salt and light is equivalent to, and then involve yourselves in TPUSA. And then involve yourselves in politics. Involve yourselves in voting for murderous, psychopathic overlords. And that mentality is the same mentality that the Democrats have. Whatever you have to get involved in, whatever you have to immerse yourself in, however you have to corrupt your own soul and demean and demoralize yourself, we need you at the voting booth to vote for the Democrat masters. The right is saying the exact same thing. That is freaking groundbreaking, astonishing. You are never going to hear Alex Zio Jones say that. In this next clip right here, Frank pushes the government's official story of the 30-06 and by implication naming Tyler Robinson as the lone gunman. Check this out. He's actually pushing the FBI/DOJ lie of the lone gunman.
So this leads us up to that terrible Wednesday, September 10th. He sent me this on Tuesday, the day before, and he sent this to other friends too. The passages from 1 Corinthians 16:9, Paul says, "A wide door for effective work has opened up to me, and there are many adversaries." And we found out the next day, one of the adversaries had a 30-06.
So he's selling you the government's official story of the lone gunman, because the only guy who supposedly pulled the trigger on the 30-06, and none of that story makes any sense. The messages between Tyler Robinson and his quote unquote lover makes no sense. As a matter of fact, it has all the ingredients of, oh, tell them this and this and this, and give the lawyers this fact of the case and this fact of the case, and have a dialogue as though the FBI were asking the questions and he were sitting in an interrogation room, and just answer it exactly like the FBI would want you to answer it. It's got all the fingerprints of, and somebody actually queried ChatGPT, hey, is this something that a human came up with, or what's the likelihood this is AI? And ChatGPT actually said the likelihood is extremely high that this was manufactured by ChatGPT. Let me remind you of the goal of propaganda by the father of propaganda, Edward Bernays, who's the nephew of Sigmund Freud. He says the conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in a democratic society. And what exactly is a democratic society? Well, the founding fathers considered a democratic society two wolves and a lamb deciding what to have for dinner. And guess what? You are going to be served for dinner by the powers that shouldn't be as dinner. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. So you think you're voting for the Obamas and the Trumps of the world and the Bidens and Harrises and Reagans, but every vote is a vote for the people who actually are in control of the issuance and the value of your currency. We are governed Our minds, governed means to be controlled. Our minds are molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men we have never heard of. This is the logical result of the way in which our democratic society is organized. Vast numbers of human beings must cooperate in this manner if they are to live as a smoothly functioning society. What is this manner? The manner that the social engineers have prescribed for you. The program that they have given you to follow. One key element of that is the 15,000-hour public fool indoctrination program. And almost every act of our daily lives. This was true back in the 1930s, guys. How much more true in the age of social media and AI generated algorithms? In almost every act of our daily lives, whether in the sphere of politics or business, in our social conduct or ethical thinking, we are dominated by the relatively small number of persons who understand the mental processes and the social patterns of the masses. They know exactly what's going to happen when they initiate or co-opt an existing problem, because they can almost always count on a fear-based, emotionally charged response and then step in to provide the pre-planned solution, which is they're the answer to the problem because they knew that you would beg them for it. And that's exactly what we do. It is they who pull the wires which control the public mind. Another interesting aspect of this, and I think you'll find this super, super interesting. Frank hypocritically claims that people who love don't let loved ones do something that is harmful to themselves and others while promoting the harmful politics of TPUSA. Listen to his words.
If you love someone, you're not going to improve or you're not going to approve of evil they want to do.
Can you think of anything more evil than supporting political parasites to create agendas that make us less free, take more of our wealth, start wars, and devalue our currency? Can you think of anything more evil? Can you think of any more harm being done than to be at the helm of the war machine, blowing body parts away in foreign lands for democracy?
You're not going to approve of lifestyles you know are harmful to them. You're not going to
like the lifestyle of involving yourself in TPUSA or the RNC or the corporately controlled DNC, like that. Yeah, I agree. So if you have a friend, you're going to say, dude, here's what politics is. It's violence, it's murder, it's corruption, it's lies. Why do you want a part in that? Stop voting for the chains of your own oppression. And for God's sake, stop voting for the chains of my own oppression. It's like, I want the prison doors to be flung open. You keep trying to slam them shut with your vote.
Approve of things that God doesn't want people to engage in because God wants people to flourish. And if you affirm what they want to do that is against God's will, against nature's law, you're not loving, you're enabling people. And look, every parent knows that love doesn't mean approval. Every parent knows that if you approve of everything your 13-year-old wants to do, you're not loving. You need to love people by tactfully telling them the truth.
Okay, Frank, let me tell you the truth. TPUSA, just like the DNC, is utterly consumed by evil. How do we know? Because you're trying to take known liars, known political parasites, known fathers of the VAXX, known transferers of the greatest power and wealth distribution that this world has ever known. And you're trying to make them the overlords of our lives. That's evil, Frank. And so because I love you, I'm telling you. And if you want a Bible verse, the people who do this are evildoers and imposters who, quote, will go from bad to worse, deceiving and being deceived. Frank here, as nice of a guy as he seems, Charlie Kirk, as nice of a guy as he seems, you know, some of these Democrats appear nice and rational and reasonable. Not many of them, but some of them. As nice as they seem and appear, they're basically ghouls. They just haven't let their mask slip enough for you. Even though it's clear, it's obvious that these people are the most wicked people on the face of the earth. Imagine people who swirled in the orbit of Charlie Kirk included the President of the United States. They had each other on speed dial. He used to have nothing but good things to say about the prime minister of Israel and was invited by the prime minister of Israel. That is the red carpet treatment. That is the top of the food chain under the sun, unless you're an actual bankster pulling the strings. That's the puppet on the top of the box. That's the lead clown in the clown show. There's no way I can over exaggerate how evil these people are.